30, 10.
Yeah, there's something about music videos that I love in terms of a medium, for just how dense they can be. Fit so much in, because whereas, say, within a film format, you have to create the pace, you have to let things breathe in order to comprehend. But when you're putting something to music, the music drives everything. For the most part, the way I make a music video hasn't changed from day one. I listen to the music, and I can then see images when I listen to music or hear sound. And that's the way I've written videos from day one up until now. Some videos are more directly connected to the music than others. Sometimes I'll recycle an idea that I've had in the past, but it'll then work to the new music in a completely different way.
I asked you to remember, a kiss is but a kiss, that you'd be a fool to want more from me.
With the Paolo Nutini video, I was at the time really into like the Italian giallo films. There's a lot of them I love, but Terror at the Opera is one of my favourite horror films ever made, and I just love the fact that this whole genre has like a motif of the murderer being unseen, and the leather glove, and the way that the knife comes out in this really overly dramatic way, lifted into frame. What I liked about doing that video is the murderer in those films is the main driving force and the main character, but in this he's used as a pawn. He's like this slave that doesn't have an identity. And in the giallo films, the identity of the killer is always revealed at the end. That's kind of the main crux of the giallo films, is the mysterious murderer. You don't know who it is, and then it's like huge plot twists once you reveal who they are. But in the video, I wanted him to remain this kind of anonymous, with non-identity being that almost doesn't have a mind of his own, and is just used as a pawn by Joanna Lumley's character.
I'll be gone in a while.
Joanna Lumley, I was a huge fan and still am, because I was brought up on watching Ab Fab with my mum, and she just gave so much to the video. It was just incredible working with her. They wanted to dig in a bit more into who Vince Staples is and what his whole vibe is. So I looked into more interviews and found this piece of him talking about the lion in the cage and how the music he makes, or in that world, it can be this thing where people who don't live the life that he's lived, or other artists, in that world. They don't live their life, but they'll listen from afar. Like, you stick your headphones in, you can tap into it and listen to it and enjoy it in the same way that you would go to a zoo and be looking at the tiger who's safely in the cage and who doesn't affect you.
Hey, 9mm, my brothers, my keeper was serving that ether before I did features. My mama sick, she know how to greet me, she know how to keep me, she better get 9mm, my brothers.
Which of course then ended up like is this massive kind of comment on race as well, which wasn't ever an overt attention. I just wanted like the quickest read of like the safe middle class America at a distance looking into a ghetto that's being taken advantage of and propped up as entertainment by money making corporations. So with the NAO video, I remember exactly where I was when the idea came about. I'd been sent the track the day previous, and I was in Japan, and I was out, and I ended up out on my own because my friends had all gone home, and I was completely drunk and just walking around on my own, and then found this bar that was still open, and I went in there, and there was this really weird mixed like hodgepodge of people. Like there was like an older Japanese guy, then there was like two completely wasted French dudes who were like out in the back. The waitress was letting anyone put their phone in and put music on, and I just put the phone in and the music was on, the NAO track was on, so I just played it. And I started imagining these flowers, bouquets, bursting out of his eyes and growing out. Well, that was the first image that happened. And as the idea developed, it was then about setting it. How is this happening? And then the idea of this woman walking through it. And this was then co-written with Dobie Manilova, who I co-wrote a lot of videos with, including the Paolo Nutini one. There's a darkness in that video and a lot of the work I've done. I find that there's always something under the surface of everything we do, everywhere we go, the world we live in, that we're always kind of hiding or not wanting to look at. I think it's another reason I love David Lynch. I think that's why I kind of maybe connect with his work so much. You know, like the opening of Blue Velvet, when you go into the ground, you literally just start to see the ants that are crawling underneath. There's no like dark background in my life or anything like that, but it was certainly like suburban kind of world at points. I've been in Minorca as well, which is a kind of where my dad's from. It's a very closed island. Everyone's very closed. Everyone knows each other's business. It's like a small town but on an island, so you're kind of trapped there if you live there. A lot of my videos are these like postcards of love in a way from places I've been and people I've met. One of the biggest life-changing things of my life was going to Bolivia for a video and just never leaving. I stayed for like a year and a half. I was going to get citizenship. It changed my life. I then never stopped traveling, and I haven't done since then. I've lived out of a suitcase pretty much since January 2013. Going there, I've just stayed moving and just love going to new places and filming, and then I'll stay on. And girl, drop that ass deep down low. So the Valentino Khan video is a good example of like what I kind of called it like a postcard, because the people in it are people I met. Like the chef is this amazing photographer who I met in one of the first nights out in Tokyo when I went there. I love making work that's as tapped in culturally to where I'm shooting that people who are from there will enjoy it in a completely different way from someone who's watching it from the outside. So yeah, I can see that there might be some connected themes with the body in like Sevdaliza and NAO, like it's an instrument, as you might call it. But again, like none of that's intentional, and I mean like in the Valentino Khan video as well, you see morphing of the body. I don't really know why, apart from, I mean, growing up, I watched any films I wanted that were recorded. My parents would record like loads of stuff, and they'd had like this big VHS collection, and my parents were amazing, and they would just let me watch whatever I wanted and would just tell me, don't watch that'll scare you to death. And in that case, The Fly was a huge effect on me. I watched that and was just like, for a whole week, just skin was crawling, and I was like looking up at the ceiling all the time. And you know, and then Terminator 2 is probably my all-time favourite film, and that's like with T-1000, his body moving, and I think maybe that had an effect of not limiting the adaptation or the changing of something to anywhere. Everything can be reformed and changed and moved. Great. I love she's an artist.